Welcome to the deep dive. You've given us the source, and we're here, ready to dig in and help you make sense of it all.
Yep, cutting through the noise.
So today we're tackling a really big question that seems to be on everyone's mind in crypto right now. What is actually going on with altcoins? Especially compared to Bitcoin.
And the big one is that altcoin season we keep hearing about ever actually going to happen.
Exactly. So to get some clarity, we're diving into a specific piece from Crypto Newsland. It's dated June 7th, 2025.
And it really zeroes in on something called the Altcoin Season Index.
Right. So our mission today really is to unpack what this article says. We want to understand what this index is telling us, what its current reading means.
And maybe what it signals for the wider crypto market right now.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The Altcoin Season Index. What exactly is it? How does the article explain it?
So the article describes it as basically a tool. It tracks how the top 50 altcoins are doing performance-wise compared directly to Bitcoin.
Over a specific time frame, right?
Yeah, over a defined period. Think of it like taking the market's pulse to see if altcoins have strength relative to Bitcoin or if Bitcoin is dominating.
Got it. And what's the pulse reading right now, according to this article from June 7th?
The article states the index is sitting at 14, just 14.
14. Okay, that definitely sounds low. What does the source say that number actually signifies?
Yeah, it's low. The article points out it's way below the 25 mark. And 25 is kind of the threshold for neutrality, between Bitcoin and alts.
So being down at 14 means?
It confirms, according to the source, that we're still firmly in a period of Bitcoin dominance.
Bitcoin's in the driver's seat.
Pretty much. The article clarifies that 14 specifically means fewer than 25% of those top 50 altcoins are actually managing to outperform Bitcoin right now.
Wow, so Bitcoin's really outpacing most of them.
By a wide margin, yeah. And the source actually defines that whole range. From 0 up to 25 is the Bitcoin season band. It reflects this exact phase where Bitcoin's just performing better.
Okay, so given that reading, how does the article describe the sort of general state of altcoins at the moment? Doesn't sound too rosy.
No, definitely not. The performance is described as weak, just generally weak. The article notes there hasn't really been any sustained momentum.
Since when?
Since the last time the index managed to pop above 75. And 75 is the level the source uses to signal a proper, full-on altcoin season. We're nowhere near that.
And in terms of just like day-to-day market action, what's the behavior?
Well, the source says it consistently shows altcoins are generally underperforming Bitcoin. You look at returns, volume, momentum, the key metrics mentioned.
Bitcoin's ahead.
Bitcoin's ahead. And there's just no sign in the index's movement that it's getting anywhere close to that 75 needed for alt season to, kick off. The article's pretty clear. Altcoin activity just hasn't shown the sustained price strength needed to really turn things around.
Yeah.
And as long as this index is stuck below 25, well, altcoins aren't likely to lead the market.
Right. That paints a very clear picture of now. But what about the bigger picture? Does the article give any historical context? How has this index moved in the past?
It does, yeah. It mentions that the index did spike above 75 previously. There was a moment.
Ah, so there was an alt season briefly?
Sort of. But it retraced quickly. The article says those altcoin gains, while maybe exciting at the time, they just didn't last. They were short-lived.
And what happened after that brief surge? Did it just drift back down?
Yeah, pretty much declined steadily after that spike. The source interprets that as a signal that capital didn't really keep flowing into altcoins. The momentum didn't stick.
Were there any bounces on the way down?
There were some temporary recoveries. Yeah, the article notes that. But none were strong enough to really move the needle much. Certainly not back towards neutral or anywhere near that 75 level.
Okay, but here's something interesting you highlighted from the source. Despite this, extended weakness, the article suggests it doesn't necessarily mean it's game over for alts.
Right, that's a really crucial point the article makes. It doesn't frame it as a complete shift away from altcoins forever.
So how does it frame it?
It talks about it more as a pause in the altcoin growth momentum. It looks at the chart structure, the historical data.
And this pause, it feels longer this time.
It does. The source acknowledges this pause has stretched out longer than maybe we've seen in some past cycles. BUT. And this is the key thing the article emphasizes.
Okay.
Historical behavior shows these kinds of lulls, these periods below 25, they have often come before later upward moves for altcoins.
So a longer pause, maybe, But history suggests pauses happen before things pick up again. Is that the idea?
That's exactly the idea presented. The structure of the chart, according to the article, kind of backs this up. It shows that previous dips below 25 have often led to recoveries later on.
And there was something about a tweet.
Yeah, the article references a sentiment highlighted in an associated tweet, basically saying, alt season's delayed, not canceled. It will come. You just need to be patient. That really mirrors the source's overall take here.
Delayed, not canceled. Okay. That resonates with the historical pattern idea. So, stepping back, why might this be happening now? Why this phase with the index at 14?
Well, with the index so low, it just reflects that market behavior is lining up with Bitcoin's stronger performance, like we said. The article suggests this ongoing Bitcoin strength implies that maybe, just for now, investors are kind of consolidating, moving into assets they see as perhaps less volatile, more established.
Wanting it safe, maybe?
Could be. Sticking with Bitcoin for the time being.
Does the article mention any outside factors like
Right.
regulations or the economy? Could they be playing a role in this?
It does touch on that. It notes this low index reading is happening while, market participants are still keeping a close eye on regulatory news and wider macroeconomic trends. While the article really focuses on the index signal itself, it does acknowledge that these external things could definitely influence how capital moves or doesn't move across the whole crypto space.
Right, those things always loom large. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Looking ahead, what does the article suggest this current situation means? What should people be watching?
Well, based purely on this index signal, the article concludes that, for the moment, the market clearly favors Bitcoin. Altcoins are sort of waiting on the sidelines,
Waiting for their turn, maybe.
perhaps. And the index itself is positioned as the thing to watch for any shift.
So we keep an eye on the index number.
Exactly. The article says the index will be monitored closely, in the coming weeks and months for any sign of it creeping back into that neutral zone.
That's the 25 to 75 range.
Right. Or ideally for altcoin holders, pushing up into that altcoin preferred territory, which is anything above 75.
And if or when that shift happens, this index would be a key way to track it, according to the source.
Yeah, it's presented as that specific measure for watching the relative performance between Bitcoin and the major alts.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the core takeaway from this Crypto Newsland piece from June 7th, 2025.
Go for it.
All right. The Altcoin Season Index is low at 14. This signals strong Bitcoin dominance right now. Altcoins are generally underperforming relative to Bitcoin. So altcoin season, definitely not happening right now based on this specific measure. But the historical context and the chart patterns the article discusses, they frame this more as a significant delay rather than a definite cancellation.
Yeah, pointing to history where dips like this, below 25, have eventually led to recoveries for altcoins down the road. Delayed, not canceled, seems to be the vibe.
It gives a snapshot of a tough present for alts relative to Bitcoin, but also offers that historical perspective based on the source's analysis. Which leaves us and you with this thought to chew on. If these internal crypto market patterns, like the Altcoin Season Index, suggest a rally is just delayed, how much weight should you actually give those signals compared to the big external forces? Things like major regulatory changes or shifts in the global economy when you're making your decisions.
Yeah, where do you place your focus? On the
Oh.
internal charts or the external headlines? Something to think about.